nature, glucose filled and programmed to respond. It's gonna rain all night, but we'll be alright under the geodesic dome. Infrared heated just like home, sitting in the shade of a rubber tree. I'll kiss you and you kiss me. Back to nature, burning bodies in the sun. Back to nature, just like lemmings, everyone. Back to nature, catalyst aircraft through the air. Back to nature, aerosol embrace of air. It's gonna rain all night, but we'll be alright under the geodesic dome. Infrared heated just like home, sitting in the shade of a rubber tree. I'll kiss you and you kiss me. Kiss me. Kiss me. Kiss me. Good night, back to nature. Good night, back to nature. Back to nature. Back to nature. Turn on, back to nature.
Hello and welcome to Head On, a very special Head On actually. Today we're going to do a one-off, and today we're going to do a Fad Gadget special. an idea I had for a while to maybe do a special episode every now and again on a particular artist or a theme or a specific year. And I thought today we'd do Fad Gadget because last week was the anniversary of his death, and it just got me thinking it could be a good time. And Fad Gadget, as I've said before, just for me, one of my all-time favourite artists and well worthy of doing a special on. So that first song was Back to Nature, which was his first single in 1979, and what a fantastic debut single that is, Back to Nature. It was actually only the second single released on the legendary Mute Records of Daniel Miller, and in fact Fad Gadget was the first artist on Mute. Now, Fad Gadget was actually born Francis Tovey in London in 1956 in the area of London Bow, which many people kind of think that is the real London, the East End of London. So yeah, from London in 1956, and actually as Fad Gadget started out, Depeche Mode actually started by supporting Fad Gadget in the early days, and as they were getting going, and Fad Gadget was a bit of a strange character. One of those guys, he had a band name, but it was always just him. Fad Gadget was Frank Tovey, and Frank Tovey was Fad Gadget, you could say. And he explored many themes, you could say, such as materialism, industrialization, dehumanization. But he always had that kind of quite dark sense of humour, which is often the case with these artists. You think, oh, it's so bleak, so miserable sounding. But actually, there's a lot of humour in there if you dig deep enough. And it's definitely the same with the likes of Leonard Cohen and Daft, who I've mentioned before. And Fad Gadget had that in abundance, without a shadow of a doubt. So that was Back to Nature to get us started. And next we are going to his second single from 1980. We have Ricky's Hand. So that was Vicky's Hand by Fad Gadget, his second single from 1980, and such an explosive sounding single that, I mean, still 40 years later, still sounds so powerful. If you play that in a DJ set, it just sounds so full on still, just so exciting. And you can hear some extra sounds in there, like an electric power drill. And this is very normal for Fad Gadget. If you listen to his records, you often hear sort of makeshift instruments, household appliances, as I say, like an electric power drill. You'll hear electric razors, even the sound of him tapping a teaspoon on a teacup, which he actually explained in a fantastic documentary about Fad Gadget about 10, 12 years ago. Where he just said, well, it's just easier. If I want that sound of hitting a teacup with a teaspoon, it's easier just to record that than finding some setting on a keyboard. It's absolutely true, of course. And that was absolutely fantastic. One of the best music documentaries I've seen was the Fad Gadget documentary. Mute Records have done whatever they've done with it. I don't know what, but they don't let anyone see it. It's kind of been deleted. It's been out of print for a long time. For some reason, God knows what Mute are doing there, but I just wish I'd make that documentary available again, because it was just absolutely brilliant and a real insight into Fad Gadget. Okay, next we're going to his debut album now, 1980, and we have the song State of the Nation.
When you're ready to face it, I've changed my mind, 'cause I'm stuck on the state of the nation. I know you've got potential, so what's your price? I'll pay it. Consumer guide to help you, and a check card just to add some fun. It's time I had a washout. Cold storage, no more headroom. Collecting things I don't need in a room I never use. Life begins when you're ready to face it. I've changed my mind, 'cause I'm stuck on State of the Nation.
State of the Nation by Fad Gadget there, from his debut album Fireside Favourites, released in 1980, which is actually only the third album on Mute Records, after Decline Undy Bolson by Daft and Music for Parties by Silicon Teens. And his first album is it's strange. I mean, it seems to have two different styles going on in that album, quite a dancey sort of sound, but always that, and also a bit more downbeat. And that it's quite a claustrophobic sounding album. Certainly songs like The Box, it's a real claustrophobic sort of sound, but an absolutely brilliant debut album. And I remember my old DJ friend Matt Dutton, he used to always love playing the first song on that album, Pedestrian, which is great. But then also you've got Coitus Interruptus. I didn't play that one because I actually played that one on my show last week, but State of the Nation is also an absolutely brilliant track. So next we are going to 1981, and we have another non-album track actually next, the third out of four, and this is Ladyshave from 1981. So that was Ladyshave, which was actually only a B-side to the single Make Room, and actually has gone down in history actually really as one of the classic Fad Gadget records. Such a fantastic synth little riff in that track, and it's just absolutely one of the best singles from around that time, I would say, even though it's only a B-side. And again, that was not so uncommon at that time, that you'd have an artist who would actually be releasing some of her best work, which didn't even make it onto albums, because singles were deemed almost as important at times. And so that was Ladyshave. And again, that's, if you can catch that, there's a live version of it on YouTube, which is brilliant. And it's worth mentioning, actually, Fad Gadget live, he just was just an absolute force of nature. If you watch the footage of him, I wish I could have seen the guy. But yeah, an unbelievable performer. And so, yeah, definitely try and check out some of his live footage if you can, especially that one, Ladyshave. And there's an absolutely amazing concert. I don't know if it's still on YouTube. It was, of him at the Hacienda, a full concert. And yeah, absolutely brilliant and worth checking out if you can. Okay, next track, we are going to 1981, staying in 1981 from his album Incontinent. This is Saturday Night Special. That was Saturday Night Special by Fad Gadget on our Fad Gadget special, and that is from the album Incontinent from 1981. Quite a difficult album, that, you know, if you think the first album, Fireside Favourites, is quite dark and claustrophobic sounding, I think Incontinent kind of takes that to the next level. Gives you a sense of unease at times. There's a real, like I say, claustrophobic element to it. And that, I think Saturday Night Special just kind of grows and grows, but it's kind of, again, got that dark humour to it, and I love the piano in there. It reminds me a little bit of the track Fireside Favourites from his debut album. But yeah, actually, if I had to name my favourite Fad Gadget track, I'm not sure that would be it, but I think probably be in the top 3, that one. Brilliant track there from Fad Gadget, with the song Saturday Night Special. Okay, and now we are going to probably my all-time favourite Fad Gadget track. We have Wheels of Fortune from the 1982 album Under the Flag. Wheels of Fortune there by Fad Gadget from the album Under the Flag, released in 1982. One of my all-time favourite albums of the 80s, that Under the Flag. It's just a really sad sounding album, quite melancholy. It doesn't have a sense of claustrophobia that his first two albums have. It's a bit more of a full sounding album, but it's a very sad album. He had just become a father, Fad Gadget, and he was actually quite worried about the world he was bringing his daughter into. And that album, it really explores themes of, Thatcher's Britain, the Falklands. There's a real sense of concrete all through that album, talking about multi-storey car parks, no places for children to play anymore, no more green areas. And it's like a really evocative album. The lyrics are always very evocative in the album, more than any other, I think. And it just sounds like he's really hit his stride. He's become like a real recognised artist. It's not quite as experimental as maybe his first two albums and his first few singles, but for me, the absolute best from start to finish Fad Gadget album. And I could have played many tracks off this album. I really wanted to play Life on the Line as well, which is again an all-time favourite Fad Gadget track, but I only had time for one song per album, so I just went for Wheels of Fortune because it's a bit less known, and I would say probably my favourite Fad Gadget track. Okay, next, 1984, so 2 years later he released the album Gag, and this was the big track on this, Collapsing New People.
You people, watch them collapsing, jaded,
So it was Collapsing New People from his 1984 album Gag, which that track actually he made with Einsturzende Neubauten. I've played that track on my show, actually, on my weekly show, a good few months ago now, but I think really that is the standout track on Gag. For me, it pains me to say it, but I really don't think Gag, it never did it for me, to be honest. It was his first album recorded with a band, because on all of his previous albums, everything you hear is pretty much Fad Gadget. He recorded pretty much everything that you hear, but this is the first time he recorded an album in the studio with a band, and for me, you can actually hear that. It does have that different feel to it. And it just feels a bit less controlled, a bit more all over the shop. Didn't do it for me, that album Gag, to be honest. But Collapsing New People is a fantastic track, and again, one of the most recognisable Fad Gadget songs. Okay, next we are going to one of Fad Gadget's. This is actually, he had kind of dropped Fad Gadget, the project, and he moved on to something new, which I'll explain after. But this is The Liberty Tree by Frank Tovey.
I don't want to go to the market square, but I admit that once I travelled there, and I gave in to temptation too. When I left I had no shirt to wear. They try to sell you things you already own, tell you that this place is not your home, then charge you for the rain and sunshine too, poison everything that you've grown. But there goes the king of labourers, his load is heavy still, he'll carry his burden like a good man can to the foot of Liberty Hill, at the root of the Liberty Tree. I might see you there at the dawning, but please don't you wait for me. I talked to these, but did they ever listen? They had ears, but there was something missing. You take to using sign language too, tell them that some gold just doesn't glisten, while you play the performing monkey much too long, and you know your grindest tunes are wrong. You pretend to have some kind of control, but you'll be out in the street before too long. But there goes the queen of labourers, sweeping back the sea, and she'll carry her load like a good woman can to the root of the Liberty Tree, at the foot of Liberty Hill. I'll meet you there at the dawning, if you're waiting still. Well, sometimes you think you've learned how to swim, but just look at this crazy swamp you're in, and your lame excuses are all wearing thin. Just who are you kidding now? Whoa! They tie you up, put you in a cage, and wonder why you should be a rage. Then feed you on scraps, comes up their taxes too, and say you gotta keep up with the age. But there goes the child of labourers through the valley of the kings, and demanding the birthright like all children should, at the source of the Liberty Spring, by the root of the Liberty Tree. I'll meet you there in the dawning, if you'd wait for me, and I do hope you wait for me.
So it was The Liberty Tree by Frank Tovey, as he was going by the name of then, and that was from 1991. And I think by that point, he'd dropped the Fad Gadget name for a little while, and he kind of felt he'd taken the electronic sound as far as he could with regards of what he was wanting to do. And I think, he'd grown up a bit, wanted to change his sound, explore new avenues. And, I mean, he was a total groundbreaker, and I think it was strange, though, because often certain artists, maybe they start with that more kind of organic acoustic sound and they explore electronic sounds, and Fad Gadget kind of went the other way, you could say. But such a beautiful song there, and I think overlooked side of Frank Tovey, Fad Gadget. I could easily have just sat here playing just for classic Fad Gadget electronic tracks and more experimental stuff. But I think it would be unfair not to mention that side of him. And I think that song, The Liberty Tree, 1991, it's such a beautiful track. It's very sad sounding, but really lovely. And there's a great video for it as well, which is worth checking out on YouTube. So The Liberty Tree there by Frank Tovey. Okay, and so a few years later, Fad Gadget, or Frank Tovey, he'd been dormant for quite some time, and then sort of late 90s, 2000, Depeche Mode went on a massive, huge world tour, and they tempted Fad Gadget out of retirement, and so Fad Gadget was reignited, and he supported Depeche Mode on this huge tour, which is a nice touch, because obviously, as I said at the start of the show, Depeche Mode actually started by supporting Fad Gadget, but obviously went on to become much more commercially successful. And the tour was a huge success. Fad Gadget went down an absolute storm. And things were looking up for him. He released a retrospective best of at the end of 2001, off the back of this great successful tour. And then sadly, he actually very suddenly died, April 2002. It was a total shock to everyone. A sudden heart attack, and it was just the timing was so sad. You kind of thought he could have really found a new audience that didn't know about him previously. So but an absolute pleasure to play all these Fad Gadget and Frank Tovey songs for you tonight. So you've been listening to our Fad Gadget special on RKO. The program is HeadOn. If you want to get in touch, you can. WhatsApp number 3516776164. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever you like. You'll find us. Get in touch. Okay, so for the last song for our Fad Gadget special, I want to play a track from 1980. I mean, there's so many tracks that I didn't play tonight. I could have done. Pedestrian, Fireside Favourite, Coitus Interruptus, The Box, Swallow It, Incontinent, Life on the Line, Under the Flag, Parts 1 and 2, Love Parasite, For Whom the Bells Toll, Luxury, so many I could have played. Get online and find all the Fad Gadget that you can if Mute haven't deleted it, which we have an annoying tendency to do. Find Fad Gadget if you can, you must. So I'm going to leave you tonight with a track, Arch of the Aorta, from his 1980 debut album, the last track on the album Fireside Favourites. So it's called Arch of the Aorta, and it's a bit different from the rest of the album. It doesn't have that kind of claustrophobic experimental sound. It's like more of a kind of sublime piece of music, and it is just so incredible. It's so ahead of its time. You think, wow, this is 1980. It's 40 years ago. It could have been recorded this week even. An incredible piece of music, this, as I say, just sublime and out of keeping with the rest of the album, I would say. So here to finish the show on our Fad Gadget special, Arch of the Aorta from 1980. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.